I spent $30,000 on a family vacation to California, dreaming of happy moments with my loved one, my wife. But at the airport, my wife said, "I forgot to buy you a ticket. Just go home." She had planned to leave me behind like trash from the very beginning. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now watching from. I am James from the United States. This story is not easy for me to tell, but it begins on the day my entire world collapsed in the middle of a crowded airport. A day that should have marked the beginning of a dream instead became the moment. I realized everything in my life was built on lies. That morning, I wheeled my suitcase through the sliding doors of the terminal, my chest filled with excitement. My wife had been planning this trip for months. She called it the surprise of a lifetime. I can still hear her voice from the night before, warm and playful as she pressed the printed itinerary into my hand. "Don't you dare peek, James. Just trust me. Tomorrow, you'll see what true love feels like." I trusted her, foolishly, completely. The terminal buzzed with life. Families embracing, children running, businessmen hurrying with briefcases. I smiled to myself, imagining the look on her face when we boarded together, when we finally broke free from the monotony of our lives. She told me this trip would change everything. She was right, just not in the way I ever expected. When I reached the counter, I handed over my itinerary. The attendant smiled politely, tapped at her keyboard, then frowned. She tried again, her fingers moving faster, her eyes flicking between me and the screen. Finally, she looked up with sympathy. "Sir, I'm not finding any reservation under this name." Confusion jolted me. There must be a mistake. My wife booked it. "Look here." I slid the crisp itinerary across the counter, my confidence steady for the moment. She scanned the paper, then shook her head slowly. "This reservation was canceled yesterday." The words hollowed me out. I felt the ground slip beneath my feet. Canceled? By whom? My wife had been glowing with excitement just last night. She told me she was parking the car and would meet me here. My voice cracked as I insisted. "That can't be right. She's coming. She'll be here any minute." The attendant softened her tone but didn't waver. "I'm sorry, sir. There's nothing I can do." I turned, my eyes darting across the sea of faces. Any second she would appear. Any second she would smile, wave, maybe laugh at this small mix-up. But she didn't appear. Instead, my phone buzzed. Relief surged. Finally. I answered, expecting her breathless apology. But it wasn't a call. It was a voicemail notification. My stomach twisted. I pressed play. Her voice slid into my ear, calm, deliberate, rehearsed. "James, by the time you hear this, I'll already be gone. Don't call me. Don't try to find me. This is goodbye." My entire body went cold. I replayed it once, twice. Each time the words sliced deeper. She wasn't late. She wasn't coming. She had vanished. People moved around me, laughing, shouting, living their ordinary lives, while mine had shattered in the span of 30 seconds. I tried calling her back, but it went straight to voicemail. Again, nothing. Then another buzz. My bank app. A withdrawal alert. I opened it and my heart nearly stopped. Thousands of dollars were gone. Transfers I hadn't made. My hands shook as I scrolled, every few days. Small amounts siphoned out, clever enough to avoid suspicion. Added together, it was nearly everything I had. The betrayal deepened like a knife twisting. She hadn't only left me, she had stolen from me. And then came the cruelest blow of all. Through the glass wall of the terminal, I caught sight of her auburn hair glinting under the lights. She was walking down the jet bridge. My heart leapt, then froze. She wasn't alone. A tall man walked beside her, his hand resting possessively on the small of her back. She leaned into him, laughing. My wife, my love, my life, with him. My chest burned. Rage and disbelief tangled until I could barely breathe. That was our trip, our dream, and she had handed it to another man while leaving me stranded like garbage. I stumbled forward, suitcase rattling behind me. I pushed toward the gate, my voice hoarse. "Wait, she's right there." A security guard stepped in front of me. "Ticket, sir." I don't have it. She canceled it. "Look, she's boarding right now." His eyes narrowed. To him, I was just another desperate man losing control. He blocked me firmly. Behind him, the gate doors closed. The jet bridge sealed, and with it, my wife disappeared into the sky with another man. I stood frozen, chest heaving, vision blurred with tears. Around me, no one cared. No one saw the way my world had ended. I sank onto a bench, clutching my face. The sound of children giggling, of lovers kissing, of flight announcements, all of it mocked me. The woman I had built my life around had betrayed me in the most brutal way. But through the grief, something else stirred. Something darker, stronger, rage. She thought a voicemail and a canceled ticket would destroy me. She thought draining my account would leave me powerless. She thought I would crumble. But she didn't know me. Not really. I pressed replay on her message again, listening closely. Her tone was steady, not rushed. She had recorded it earlier. She knew exactly when I'd hear it. This wasn't an impulsive decision. It was a plan, a long, deliberate plan. And people who plan leave trails. I opened my suitcase, searching through the neatly folded clothes. At the bottom, under a shirt, I found something that didn't belong. A slip of paper, a hotel confirmation number, not under my name, not under hers. A third name. My pulse quickened. She had hidden it, thinking I'd never look. But now I had my first thread. I stared at that paper, the edges digging into my palm. Betrayal had stripped me of everything, but it had given me a reason, a purpose. This wasn't over. I walked out of the terminal, the sunlight glaring harshly, my suitcase dragging behind me. Each step away from the airport was a step into a new reality. The James who entered that building was gone. The James walking out was different, hardened, awake. I swore to myself then I would find her. I would expose every lie, every secret, every stolen dollar. And when I did, she and the man she betrayed me with would pay. This wasn't the end. This was war. The ride home was a blur. I don't remember the cab driver's face, or the blur of traffic outside the window. I only remember gripping that hotel slip in my hand, my mind replaying her laughter as she walked beside him. Images flooded me, her late nights, the way she clutched her phone to her chest when it buzzed, the excuses she gave about working overtime. I had wanted to believe her. I had wanted to trust her, but trust had made me blind. I unlocked my front door and stepped into the house that now felt hollow. Her shoes were gone, her coats missing, drawers half empty. She had prepared this carefully, but she hadn't erased everything. Not yet. I tore through the bedroom, yanking open drawers, pulling clothes from the closet, receipts, notes, anything. At the back of the nightstand, I found another clue, a receipt for jewelry dated weeks ago, a necklace I never saw her wear, a gift but not for me. Each discovery was another dagger, but also another spark of fire in my chest. She had built a life behind my back. She had plotted my humiliation, but I would use her own trail to destroy her. I sat at the desk, opening my laptop. I typed in the hotel confirmation number. My hands shook as the page loaded. There it was, reservation confirmed. 2 guests, dates matching our supposed trip. I leaned back, my breath ragged. The betrayal was complete, but so was my resolve. She thought she could bury me under her lies. She thought she could vanish into the world with her new lover, leaving me broken. But she had made a mistake. She had underestimated the man she left behind. And so part one of my story ends with this truth. I am no longer the man she abandoned, the man she betrayed. I am the man who will make her regret every lie, every theft, every whispered promise she twisted into a knife. She took my love. She took my trust. She took my future. But she gave me something far stronger, a reason to fight. And as I stared at the glowing screen with her hotel details shining back at me, one thought burned hotter than ever. This wasn't the end. This was only the beginning. The city of California stretched wide before me, streets buzzing with life, while my own world had collapsed into silence. I had driven for hours, my eyes burning from exhaustion, my hands locked on the steering wheel. I didn't even feel the ache in my body. All I felt was the sting of betrayal running through my veins like fire. The hotel slip I found in my suitcase was still in my pocket, folded so tightly the paper had nearly torn. It carried a name that wasn't mine, a reservation made in secret. She thought she had hidden it well. She thought I would never find it. But here I was, parked outside the towering building she had chosen as her hiding place. The glass doors slid open and I stepped inside. The lobby smelled of fresh flowers and polished wood. Laughter drifted through the air. Couples wheeled their suitcases, tourists snapped photos, and I stood there like a ghost among the living. My heart pounded as I approached the desk. "Reservation under Carter," I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. The clerk typed quickly, her eyes flicking to the screen. She smiled. "Yes, 4 nights. They checked in yesterday evening." Checked in. My stomach tightened. She was here, right now, just floors above me with him. I tried to push further. "Could I send something to the room?" Her smile dimmed slightly. "Only listed guests can do that, sir." I leaned closer, lowering my voice. "It's for my wife. I want to surprise her." She gave me a polite but firm look. "I'm sorry. I can't give out details." I nodded as though it didn't matter, thanked her, and walked away. My chest was tight, my jaw clenched. Room 814, that was theirs. My wife was behind that door, living the life she stole from me. I took the elevator up to the 8th floor. The hallway stretched in silence, lined with identical doors. I counted until I reached 814. My hand hovered near the handle. I pressed my ear close. Voices, her laugh. Light, playful, like it used to be with me. My throat burned. And then a man's voice, deeper, confident, wrapping around her like a chain. I wanted to pound on that door. I wanted to drag her out, to shout until the walls shook. But I didn't. I stepped back, trembling, forcing myself to turn away. Storming in now would only make me look desperate. She would smile at him. She would hold his hand. And I would be the fool. No. I needed something stronger than rage. I needed proof. Back in my car, I pulled out my laptop. My fingers flew across the keys, logging into accounts I still remembered. Email, cloud storage. I searched every folder, every message. My chest tightened as images appeared. Her with him, arms tangled around each other, smiling in places I had never been, dates matching nights she told me she was working, late, hotels, restaurants, trips, dozens of lies captured in photographs. Throat closed as I scrolled. She hadn't stumbled into this. She had built it carefully, piece by piece. While I sat at home waiting, she was already living a different life. But I also found things she hadn't wanted anyone to see. Credit card bills she had hidden, messages begging friends for money, unpaid debts stacking up. She wasn't the perfect woman she pretended to be. She was drowning, and she had chosen to pull me under with her. I closed the laptop and stared through the windshield. The hotel loomed above me, and I knew she was inside, laughing with him, while I sat outside, broken. But I wasn't broken, not anymore. Hours later, they appeared. She stepped out first, her hair catching the light. She looked radiant, alive. She wore the smile she used to give me, but now it was his. He followed behind her, tall, confident, his arm sliding around her waist. My grip on the steering wheel tightened. I lowered myself in the seat, watching. They hailed a cab, laughing together as though the world belonged to them. The car pulled away and I followed. They moved through the city like lovers on holiday, hand in hand through the shops, sharing food at small cafes, pausing at street corners just to kiss. Every sight was another knife, but I didn't stop. I memorized it all. Their patterns, their habits, the way he held her hand too tightly, the way she tilted her head toward him, pretending he was the only man alive. By evening, they returned to the hotel. I stayed parked across the street, watching the lights flicker on in their window. My chest was hollow, but my mind was sharper than it had ever been. I wasn't rushing in to scream. I wasn't storming up there to beg. I was waiting. Late into the night, when the streets grew quiet, I walked back into the hotel. My steps were steady, my expression calm. I rode the elevator again, up to the 8th floor. I stopped in front of 814, my heart hammering. I bent down and slipped a small recorder under the door, simple, hidden, enough to catch voices, laughter, maybe confessions. I walked away silently, my footsteps soft against the carpet. In the car, I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Sleep wouldn't come. My mind replayed the day in fragments, her laugh, his hand on her waist, the photos on my screen. I whispered to myself, barely audible. You thought you left me behind. You thought I'd disappear, but I'm right here. The night stretched on, and I didn't close my eyes once. My life as I knew it had ended, but something else was beginning. A new part of me, a colder part. She had chosen him. She had chosen lies. She had chosen to erase me, but she couldn't erase the truth. And she couldn't erase what I was becoming. I stayed there until the morning sun spilled across the city, the hotel shining against the sky. They had no idea I was so close. No idea I was listening. No idea their time together was already marked. This was California, the place she thought she could hide. But I had found her, and I wasn't leaving, not until the story was mine again. The morning light washed over California, but inside me everything stayed dark. I sat in my car across from the hotel, the small recorder still in my pocket. My body begged for rest, but I refused. My eyes stayed fixed on the building as if staring hard enough would let me see through the walls and into their lives. Every second mattered. I had proof now. My laptop was filled with their pictures. My recorder was ready to capture their voices, and my mind carried every detail of their movements. But I needed more. I needed their secrets laid bare, so that when the time came there would be no escape, no lie strong enough to cover the truth. Around noon they emerged. She wore a light dress, the kind she never wore with me, and he walked beside her, smug, like he had already won. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned pale. They didn't even glance around, didn't even think anyone might be watching. That was their mistake. I followed as they moved through the city, weaving from shop to shop. I parked a distance away and shadowed them on foot, slipping through crowds. My heart pounded each time she laughed, each time his hand brushed her waist. They walked as though nothing existed but them. At a cafe, they sat at an outdoor table. I positioned myself 2 tables behind, sunglasses hiding my eyes, a newspaper shielding my face. I heard fragments of their voices carried by the breeze. "We'll leave soon," he said. Her voice softened. "Are you sure it's safe?" "Of course. He won't know a thing." My chest burned at those words. He was talking about me. He was sure I was blind, powerless, left behind. She leaned toward him, whispering something I couldn't catch. He laughed, the kind of laugh that cut through me like glass. I gritted my teeth. Every word was fuel. Every second I stayed silent was another stone in the foundation of what I was building. When they finished, they walked off arm in arm. I left cash on the table and followed again. They moved toward a quiet street lined with old houses, the kind where curtains stayed drawn in the day. He opened a gate, led her inside, and shut it behind them. I stayed across the street, half hidden by a tree. Hours passed. Shadows stretched across the pavement. My mind swirled with thoughts of what they were doing inside. But I didn't move. Patience was my weapon now. By evening, they came out again. She carried a small bag, and he looked around briefly before guiding her back toward the main street. That moment, his glance over his shoulder told me something. He wasn't as careless as I thought. He knew the risk. I ducked into the shadows, heart racing. Had he seen me? Or was it just habit? They returned to the hotel. I circled the block, my eyes on their window, lights flickering against drawn curtains. I wanted to storm up there, to tear the door down, but I forced myself to sit still, to breathe, to think. Later, when the city had gone quiet, I returned to the 8th floor. I slid the recorder back under the door, my pulse hammering. I parked across the street and slipped inside after them, sliding into a booth near the back. The waitress poured me coffee without a word. My eyes never left them. He pulled the envelope from his jacket, spreading papers across the table. She leaned close, eyes flicking over the documents. Her voice carried just enough for me to hear. "Are you sure this will work?" He smirked. "By the time he realizes, we'll be long gone." My stomach dropped. This wasn't just an affair. They were planning to destroy me, take everything and vanish. She laughed softly, placing her hand on his. "Then let's finish it." My grip on the coffee mug tightened until the porcelain threatened to crack. Every word etched deeper into me. They finished quickly, stuffed the papers back into the envelope, and left. I waited 2 minutes before sliding from the booth and following. My heart hammered as I stepped outside, watching their car roll down the street. I returned to mine and drove after them, staying far enough not to draw attention. They headed to a neighborhood I knew well. Familiar streets, familiar houses. My chest tightened as I realized where they were going. My house. The home I had built, the place filled with years of my life, now invaded by them. I parked down the block, barely breathing as they pulled into the driveway. She stepped out first, looking around casually, as if she owned the place. He followed with the bag in hand. Together they walked through my front door. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my hands ached. Every instinct screamed at me to storm in, to drag them out, to burn everything down. But I stayed still, eyes locked on the windows. Hours passed. Shadows shifted. Curtains flickered with movement inside. My stomach churned, my mind spinning through possibilities. At last, near dusk, the door opened again. They emerged laughing, arms linked as though my home was their playground. The bag was gone. I swallowed the fire in my chest. They had left something inside. Something important. When their car disappeared down the street, I slid out of mine and walked toward the house. Every step felt heavy, my pulse pounding in my ears. The front door was locked, but my key still worked. Inside, everything smelled the same, yet felt foreign. Her perfume lingered in the air, but now it was mixed with his cologne. I clenched my fists, forcing down the surge of rage. I moved through the room slowly, searching. Drawers half open, papers shuffled, cabinets disturbed. They had been going through everything. Then I found it, in the study. The leather bag sat tucked under the desk. I pulled it out, unzipped it, and froze. Stacks of cash, papers, copies of my accounts. My signature forged across forms I'd never seen. They weren't just betraying me. They were robbing me. Erasing me not just as a husband, but as a man. My hands shook as I zipped the bag shut. For a moment, I thought about taking it all, running, disappearing before they returned. But then I stopped. No, that was too easy. Too quick. I needed them to think they were winning. I needed them confident, careless. Only then could I end this. I slid the bag back under the desk, exactly where it had been. I walked through the house one last time, memorizing every detail they had touched, every lie they had left behind. Then I locked the door and returned to my car. Night had fallen. The city lights glowed against the dark sky. I sat in the car outside my own home, watching the driveway where they would return, my chest tight with fire. They thought they were clever. They thought they were unstoppable. But I was still here, and I wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. The night pressed down on me like a weight, heavy and suffocating. I sat in my car across from the house, headlights off, engine quiet, watching my own home as though it belonged to strangers. The front door glowed faintly under the porch light. Inside, shadows shifted behind curtains I once bought with her. The same curtains we argued about because I thought they were too thin. And she said they let the light in. Now I didn't see light. I saw intruders. Every detail I knew by heart was now corrupted. The flowers by the porch that I planted, her favorite roses. She brushed them as she walked in earlier, laughing with him. My bookshelf inside the study, the one I built with my own hands, it was moved, tilted, used by him. And upstairs, in the bedroom I once called mine, they were together. Her breath mingling with his, her laugh soft in his ear. I gripped the steering wheel until my fingers went numb. My mind screamed to run inside, to rip it all apart, to make them see me, remember me, fear me. But I stayed rooted in that car. Not because I was weak, because I was stronger than the storm tearing inside me. If I went in now, it would all end. The story, the evidence, the truth, it would all vanish. In a flash of violence. No, I needed them to keep writing their own downfall. I needed them to believe they were safe. So I waited. Hours stretched thin. The neighborhood fell silent. One by one, lights in nearby houses went dark. The city around us slept, but I was wide awake, eyes fixed on that door. Near dawn, their laughter faded. The lights upstairs clicked off. The house grew still. This was my moment. I slipped out of the car and crossed the street, each step echoing in my ears even though I moved silently. The back gate creaked when I pushed it, the sound stabbing into the silence like a scream. I froze, breath caught, eyes on the upstairs window. No movement. The old lock on the back door had never been fixed. I knew it would yield, and it did. With a quiet push, the door gave way, and I stepped inside my own home like a stranger. The air was heavy, stale, thick with a mix of her perfume and his cologne. My heart hammered. I walked through the kitchen, past the counter where she used to leave notes for me. Nothing but an empty glass stood there now. The living room told the story of their presence. 2 glasses half empty on the table. A wine bottle, cork left loose, red stains on the rim. A jacket, his, draped carelessly across the couch where I once sat after long days of work. Everywhere I looked, my life was still here, but twisted, reshaped around them. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step creaking under my weight. At the end of the hall, the bedroom door stood closed. Soft breaths leaked through the wood, steady and unbroken. My throat tightened. My hand hovered on the knob, every muscle in my body begging me to open it, to drag them into the light. But I pulled back. Not yet. I turned into the study instead. The desk lamp was still faintly warm, the smell of ink and paper lingering. Drawers half open, papers shuffled, signs of their search. And there it was, the leather bag under the desk, right where they had hidden it. I crouched, unzipped it, and the sight made my stomach twist. Stacks of cash, Forged documents with my name twisted into lies. Bank transfers, account numbers, signatures copied in her hand. They weren't only betraying me in love. They were stripping me of everything I owned, everything I had built. I pulled out my phone and began snapping photos. Page after page, every transfer, every number, every signature. Each click of the camera was another bullet. Loaded, proof enough to burn their empire of lies to the ground. Zipped the bag shut and slid it back into place, exactly as I had found it. They couldn't suspect I'd been there, not yet. On my way out, I lingered in the hall. The bedroom door was still closed. Their breaths still soft, unaware. I whispered almost to myself, "You don't even know I'm here." I slipped out the back and vanished into the night before dawn broke. By morning, I was sitting in a greasy diner 2 miles away, a black coffee cooling untouched in front of me. The world around me buzzed with normal life, families ordering breakfast, workers grabbing quick meals before their shifts. None of them knew that across the city, my world was on fire. I scrolled through the photos on my phone, each image clearer than the last. Proof. I had proof of everything. Affair, fraud, betrayal, enough to end them both. But I didn't just want to end them. I wanted to watch them collapse, piece by piece. For days I followed. They left the hotel each morning around 10, sometimes driving, sometimes walking. I stayed far enough behind to blend in, weaving through the city like their shadow. At a cafe, I sat close enough to hear them. Her voice, "How much longer?" His reply, "A week, maybe less. By then everything will be in our hands." At a park bench, they whispered over the bag. She, "What if he finds out?" He laughed. "He's nothing now. Just a ghost." My jaw tightened. They thought I was gone. That was their fatal mistake. At night, I returned to the hotel. I slid my recorder under their door, waited in the hallway while muffled voices spilled out. Each night gave me more fragments. Accounts ready, transfers, flights booked, cash first. Every word was another nail in the coffin they didn't know I was building. But patience alone wasn't enough. I had to act. I began with small things. I opened new accounts, moving small sums into places they couldn't reach. I traced their steps online, setting alerts for every attempt they made to drain me. Each time they touched my money, I knew. Each keystroke they believed was invisible lit up on my screen. And then I turned to them. One night I slipped into the house again. This time I didn't just take photos. I made changes. Small ones. A drawer left open. A paper slightly shifted. A pen missing from the desk. Little things, almost unnoticeable, but enough to gnaw at the back of their minds. The next morning, I sat in my car as they stormed out of the house. Her arms folded, his jaw set tight. They argued as they got into the car, their voices sharp even through the glass. I smiled for the first time in days. The cracks were forming, but cracks weren't enough. I wanted fractures. I wanted collapse. The following night I returned. I pulled one document from the bag, a transfer slip, and replaced it with a forgery I had made. The numbers were wrong, the names false, the dates twisted. To anyone rushing, it looked real, but it was poison. Back in my car, I waited for the morning. The sun rose, and through the windows I heard it. Her voice raised, sharp with accusation, his tone defensive, angry. Words flew, doors slammed. She, "You messed it up." Him, "No, I did exactly what we planned." "You're the one who—" The fight bled into the street as they stormed out. Faces hard, barely speaking as they drove off. I leaned back in my seat, steady breaths filling my chest. This was working. My patience, my silence, my traps, it was all paying off. They thought they were erasing me. But I was still here, and now I wasn't just a ghost in their story. I was the hand pulling the strings. California was their stage. But I was the one writing the ending. And soon, when the curtain fell, The world would see the truth they thought they had buried. The rain hadn't stopped. For 2 days, California wasn't known for storms like this, but somehow the skies themselves seemed to echo the chaos inside me. Sheets of water hammered against my windshield as I sat parked across the street from the house that once carried my name. Lightning flashed, splitting the sky in white veins, and for a moment, I saw their silhouettes framed in the window. She was pacing. He was shouting. Their world was crumbling, and I had become the silent architect of its fall. Every betrayal they committed, every lie they crafted had been built on confidence. They thought I was blind. They thought I was weak. They thought erasing me would be easy. But now, each step they took forward was dragged backward by the weight of doubt I had placed in their hearts. I lit a cigarette, the glow sharp in the storm's darkness. I watched the curtains twitch, her shadow stiff as though she had seen something outside. She moved quickly, pulling the fabric closed, shutting out the night. Shutting out me. But she couldn't. They had already let me inside their lives again. The argument escalated. I couldn't hear every word through the thunder, but the tone carried across the street. Rage, fear, distrust. Then a sound I could recognize anywhere, the shattering of glass. She screamed his name. He cursed back at her. Another crash followed, maybe a vase, maybe a plate. It didn't matter. What mattered was that they were splintering exactly as I had planned. I waited until their voices quieted, until only the storm filled the night. Then I moved. The back door was as unreliable as ever. My hand twisted the knob, and it yielded with a creak lost beneath the rain's roar. I stepped inside. The smell hit me first, her perfume mixed with stale wine and cigarette smoke. Not the home I remembered, not the sanctuary we had built. The kitchen counter was cluttered with dishes, unopened mail, and bottles. The dining table was scattered with papers, some crumpled, some half-burned in the ashtray. Desperation hung in the air like a fog. I walked deeper, every footstep silent. The study was darker than usual. I flicked the small light on my keychain and scanned the room. The leather bag, the one that had once overflowed with their plans, wasn't where I'd last seen it. My chest tightened, but I forced calm into my breathing. Then I spotted it, shoved carelessly behind the couch. My lips curled, careless, rushed. They were panicking, and panic made people sloppy. I crouched, pulled the bag free, and unzipped it. Inside, fewer documents remained. Several stacks of cash were gone. A quick scan of the papers told me what I already suspected. They were cashing out, preparing to run. But not yet. Not before I was finished. I put everything back exactly as it was. Every crease matched, every zipper aligned, every shadow untouched. Then I slipped out into the storm, closing the door behind me without a sound. Morning came slowly, a gray dawn stretching across the drenched city. I hadn't slept. Coffee from a roadside diner kept me wired, bitter on my tongue. As I stared at the photographs, glowing on my phone screen, evidence, proof, weapons, and yet I wanted more. Not just for me, for them. They needed to know they weren't safe. So that night, as the storm finally broke into a soft drizzle, I printed the photographs I had collected, images of their transfers, their secret meetings, their lies preserved on paper. I slid them into a plain envelope. At 3 a.m, I walked up the driveway with steady steps. The house was dark, the neighborhood asleep. I placed the envelope at the door, pressed the bell once, and melted back into the shadows. I watched from my car as the door creaked open. She appeared first, her robe pulled tight, her hair loose around her shoulders. She bent down, picked up the envelope, and opened it under the porch light. Her body stiffened. One hand shot to her mouth. The photos slipped from her grasp, scattering across the wet concrete. Her voice trembled as she called for him. He came stomping, shirtless, eyes half shut with sleep. He snatched the envelope, rifling through the photos. his face darkening with every flip, his jaw clenched, veins visible at his temples. He stormed onto the porch, scanning the street. His voice carried over the stillness. "Who's out there?" But the street was quiet. He cursed, grabbed her arm, and pulled her inside. The door slammed shut. I leaned back in my seat, exhaling slowly. The first seed had been planted. Paranoia would water it. The following days were chaos. They hardly left the house. Curtains stayed drawn tight, the car unused in the driveway. At night, their lights flicked on at odd hours, sharp shadows pacing across windows. From across the street, I could hear them arguing louder, longer, with more venom. Her voice broke one night, trembling with fear. "It's him. He's out there, watching." His voice snapped back, sharp as a blade. "You're imagining things. It's someone else trying to scare us." She shouted again, cracking under the pressure. "No, it's him. I know it. I feel it. He's not gone." I smiled in the darkness. She was right. A few nights later, I returned. The house was quiet, shadows still. I moved inside, slow, deliberate. My footsteps carried me to the bedroom door. I pushed it slightly, just enough to see them. They slept back to back, a gulf of distance between them. Not the lovers I had once followed hand in hand through the city. Now they were strangers sharing a bed out of fear. I stepped into the room, my heart steady. On the dresser, I placed one small object, my wedding ring. I let it rest there, gleaming faintly in the moonlight, a memory, a warning, a promise. Then I left as silently as I had entered. Morning broke and her scream pierced the street. Through the curtains I saw her, clutching the ring in her shaking hand, tears streaming down her face. She shoved it at him, shouting words I couldn't hear. His face hardened, rage spilling from every movement as he yelled back. The sound of something shattering followed. They were unraveling faster than I'd hoped. 2 nights later, they tried to run. Suitcases packed, footsteps heavy, doors slamming. They rushed out into the cold night air, dragging their bags toward the car. But when they reached it, they froze. Every tire was slashed. Her voice cracked into panic. "He's not going to stop." He roared at her, pointing back at the house. "Shut up, just shut up and get inside." They abandoned the bags, sprinting back through the front door, slamming it shut, locking themselves in. I sat calmly across the street, steady as the night itself, watching, waiting, smiling. The fear consumed them now. She stayed upstairs, curtains closed, lights dimmed. He paced the house endlessly, restless, trapped. Every sound made them jump. Every creak of the wood, every passing car, every gust of wind became me in their minds. And yet, instead of clinging to each other, they turned their fear into blame. Her voice cracked with fury. "This is your fault." "You dragged me into this!" His reply was a growl. "No, you begged me. You wanted it all. You promised me freedom," she shouted. "You promised me everything. And you gave me nothing but problems." Their voices collided, rage breaking into sobs, sobs into silence. I had them exactly where I wanted. The endgame was close. I could feel it in the stillness of the night, in the tightness of my chest, in the way the city itself seemed to hold its breath. So I prepared. I gathered the evidence, every photograph, every recording, every document. I organized it into folders, ready to expose them to the world. But before that, I wanted them to look at me, to see me, to understand the truth. I was not erased. I was not gone. I was the storm they had summoned, and now I was here. That night, I slipped one final recorder under their door. My fingers lingered on the carpet as I let it go. Back in my car, I listened to their voices unravel in real time. Her sobs shook through the speakers. "He's here. He'll never leave us." His voice cracked, desperation leaking through anger. "We'll get through this. We just need to finish it. Get the money. Get out." "No," she cut him off. We're already finished. A pause, heavy silence. Then she whispered, barely audible, but I caught every word. I wish he'd never left. My chest tightened. My grip on the recorder trembled. For a moment, the storm inside me threatened to break. But I held on. Because tomorrow everything would end. The city of California slept, unaware of the storm about to explode. And as I leaned back, staring at their trembling voices captured in my hands, I whispered into the dark, "Tomorrow you'll know what it feels like to lose everything." The night swallowed me whole, and when the sun rose, I was ready. California's sky was heavy that morning, clouds swollen and gray, as if even the heavens knew the end was near. I had carried this storm inside me for weeks, and now the air outside matched the weight pressing in my chest. Today wasn't about watching, recording, or waiting in silence. Today was about ending it, once and for all. For days, I had sharpened the edges of my plan. Every detail was checked, rehearsed, and hidden in plain sight. I had everything I needed: proof, timing, and the perfect stage. No courtroom, no police report, no desperate shouting in hotel lobbies. No. This would be larger, louder, undeniable. They wanted me erased, pushed aside like a ghost. Instead, I would return in front of everyone they sought to impress. Their lies would collapse not in shadows, but under blinding lights. The perfect opportunity had presented itself. A charity gala at the community hall. They were bold enough to attend together, dressed as if they belonged, as if their new world would never shatter. She thought California gave her freedom. He thought his stolen confidence would keep him untouchable. But the truth was already in my hands, waiting to be unleashed. Hours before the gala, I sat alone in my car on the edge of the city. Laptop open, phone buzzing with reminders. My heart was racing, but my hands were steady. I checked the files again, the photographs, the recordings, the messages she had hidden, his mocking words caught in whispers. Every betrayal was catalogued, every lie frozen in time. I had built an unshakable wall of proof. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. My reflection in the windshield was pale, hollow, but stronger than ever. I whispered to myself, "This ends tonight." The evening bled slowly into the city. Lights flickered on one by one, painting California's streets in gold and silver. Cars hummed past, strangers rushing into restaurants, theaters, homes. I sat still, breathing in the anticipation. At last I stepped out, buttoning my jacket, every movement deliberate. My steps felt heavy yet certain as I walked toward the hall. The building glowed like a jewel against the dark sky, draped in banners, buzzing with chatter and music. Laughter spilled into the night as guests filed in, polished shoes clattering across marble steps. I blended with the crowd, unnoticed, just another shadow among them. Inside, the air was thick with perfume and pride. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above, catching on wine glasses and sequined gowns. Waiters moved like dancers, trays balanced high. And then I saw them. Her. She stood near the center of the hall, a silver dress clinging to her like it was made for betrayal itself. Her laughter was sharp, rehearsed, a blade slicing through the air. At her side, he towered, confident, smug, his arm around her waist, his grin daring the world to challenge them. They looked untouchable, but their eyes never searched the crowd. They never imagined mine could be there watching. I moved through the sea of faces, unnoticed, silent. My pulse thundered, but my stride never faltered. The stage at the far end gleamed, empty for now. Soon it would be mine. The program rolled on, speeches, applause, shallow words about community and hope. I waited, timing every second, every lull in the room. My hand brushed the small device in my pocket. A simple click, and the truth would spill across the screen behind them all. At last the moment came. The host called for a brief intermission. Music filling the hall as glasses clinked and guests turned to each other. In the shuffle of movement, I slipped behind the curtains, climbing the narrow stairs. My breath was sharp, my body tense, but my mind was razor clear. From the stage, I watched them. She was radiant, laughing with strangers, leaning closer to him with every word. He looked down at her with possession, pride dripping from his gaze. I stepped forward. The microphone screeched to life as I cleared my throat. Heads turned, whispers rising. The music cut off, leaving only silence and my voice. "My name," I began, voice steady though my chest burned, "is James Carter. Some of you may not know me, but you all know them." Dozens of eyes shifted to where they stood. Her smile froze, confusion flashing across her face. His arms stiffened at her waist, his jaw tightening. I continued, louder now, letting my words echo across the hall. "They came here tonight to shine, to stand tall among you, pretending, but everything you see is a lie. And tonight you deserve the truth." Gasps rippled through the crowd. I reached into my pocket, pressing the device. The screen behind me flickered, images appearing one by one. Her laughing in another man's arms, him kissing her in hidden corners, receipts of secret hotels, bills unpaid, debts piled high, photos, recordings, messages, every secret they thought buried now laid bare. The crowd erupted, gasps, whispers, hands covering mouths. My wife's face drained of color, her body rigid. She stepped forward, shaking her head, her voice breaking. No, this isn't—" But the evidence drowned her out. His voice, captured on a recording, played over the speakers. "He's nothing. He'll fade away. We're the future now." The hall fell into stunned silence, every head turning toward them. The confidence drained from his face, his grip loosening on her waist. She looked at him, betrayal meeting betrayal, cracks splitting between them in front of everyone. I stood tall, my voice cutting through the chaos. "You tried to erase me. You thought I would disappear. But here I am, and the world sees you now for who you really are." The crowd erupted again, some jeering, some shaking their heads, others turning away in disgust. The pedestal they had built crumbled beneath them. She fell to her knees, trembling, tears streaking her face. He stepped back, hands raised, muttering excuses no one believed. The lights, the whispers, the eyes, they were suffocating them now, stripping them of everything they had stolen. I let the silence stretch, then spoke one final time, calm and certain. "This isn't revenge. This is truth, and the truth always finds its way out." I dropped the microphone, its echo ringing through the hall like the closing of a door. For a moment I stood there, watching them collapse under the weight of their own lies. The woman I once loved was unrecognizable, broken on the floor. The man who thought himself untouchable now looked small, exposed. And then I turned away. I walked down the steps, through the stunned crowd, past faces frozen in shock. No one stopped me. No one spoke. The doors opened, spilling cool night air against my skin. Outside, the storm had finally broken. Rain poured down in sheets, soaking me to the bone. But I didn't care. Each drop felt like release, like cleansing. The sky wept as I walked into the night, free at last. Behind me, the hall still buzzed with chaos. Their names shattered, their reputations in ruins. They had tried to erase me. Instead, they had erased themselves. I didn't need their apologies. I didn't need their downfall. All I needed was the truth revealed, and now it was brighter than any light in that hall. I disappeared into the storm, no longer the ghost they thought I'd become. I was James Carter. I was alive, and my story was mine again.